Sesame Place in Langhorne, Pennsylvania is arguably the most famous children's theme park in the Northeast. This SeaWorld owned park is themed after the beloved Sesame Street characters, and it features a mix of character meet and greets, playgrounds, and rides. It is clearly targeted towards young kids. For nearly 4 decades, coaster enthusiasts largely ignored this park. But now that it features Oscar's Wacky Taxi, even they have a reason to pop in. However, is it worth the cost? Find out in this review of the original Sesame Place. This park originally opened in 1980 as just a 3-acre park, with a series of play areas and computer labs. The park has since been quintupled in size, and it now includes amusement rides and water slides. And this place is an absolute cash cow. Sesame Street is one of the most bankable intellectual properties out there. It's timeless and highly popular with kids. There is a reason the SeaWorld and Busch Gardens parks have been expanding their presence of Sesame Street characters in the larger parks too. The business model of Sesame Place is brilliant. At just 14 acres, Sesame Place is one of the smallest theme parks in the world. Despite this, it still manages to be one of the most expensive. Single day tickets cost upwards of $90 without any discounts, and parking is an additional $30. That makes it one of the most expensive parks to park at too. Further, the park only makes modest investments, and they can get away with this because their target audience is young kids who are growing up at the park. They aren't trying to attract the same guests for multiple decades. They're targeting kids during the first 7 or 8 years of their life, and the cycle just keeps repeating with new kids, so they're not going to get bored with the rides there. While the second and third Sesame Place parks in Texas and Tokyo respectively have since closed, it's no surprise that SeaWorld is trying to emulate this model with Sesame Place San Diego, which is slated to open next month. Thankfully, Sesame Place is part of the SeaWorld chain, so my Platinum Pass grants me admission and free parking. This is easily the best admission option for coaster enthusiasts who likely will be interested in visiting the larger SeaWorld or Busch Gardens parks. Sesame Place is located next to the Oxford Valley Mall, and the park sign is tiny. Unless you squint, you'll miss it. You park across the street, and to be perfectly honest, I think the parking lot may be bigger than the park itself. As you approach the park, the employees up front are super friendly. They're often dancing and pumping guests up for their day. This is the type of energy I expect to see at a children's park. But something happens once you get inside the park. The employees are just there. Most don't seem to speak to guests unless spoken to. Worse, they seem to avoid all confrontation, even if guests are blatantly breaking the rules. There are 2 incidents that come to mind. First, there was no employee manning the skip the line pass merge point on Oscar's Wacky Taxi, so kids were picking up the height stick and dangerously swinging it around like a baseball bat. The employees saw this and did nothing. Second, I had asked one of the employees at Vapor Trail if I could use my chest-mounted GoPro. All the other SeaWorld parks allow this, but these employees said no, so I respected their decision and placed it on the side. However, there was a guest with a cell phone and a selfie stick, and another guest with their phone out in the front row, but employees didn't say anything to them. Now maybe that is the aftermath of an incident in 2020 when an employee told a man to put on a face mask and he got punched, but the lack of employee interaction makes this park feel a little cold and lifeless. The park does look awesome though. The park is bright and colorful, and there are a few moderately themed lands about the park showcasing all your favorite characters from the series. The one weird thing with how Sesame Place is set up is how the water slides are mixed amongst the amusement rides. And it's not like Kentucky Kingdom either, where the water park has its own dedicated area in the center of the park. No, the water slides are randomly placed at different sections of the park. Thankfully, Sesame Place isn't too large, but it's still an odd look. Crowds at Sesame Place can be an issue, particularly on weekends. Their flat rides and play areas are typically walk-ons, but the water slides and roller coasters can build up waits. There is a paid skip the line pass if needed on busier days. The most problematic attraction to experience is easily Oscar's Wacky Taxi. This is a bummer for most guests, but it's the kiss of death for coaster enthusiasts who are likely visiting exclusively for this ride. I've gone to Sesame Place 9 times ever since Oscar's Wacky Taxi opened, and this coaster is open at the park just once. Typically, it doesn't open until the early afternoon around 1 p.m. most days. if it even opens. This coaster seems to be the first ride that Sesame Place closes if staffing is an issue. If you want to maximize your odds of riding this coaster, your best bet is to visit on a weekend. I have never seen this ride closed on a Saturday or Sunday. It'll probably open late, but at least it'll be open. If you try visiting on a weekday, make sure it's during the peak summer months when schools are out. I've seen Oscar's Wacky Taxi closed on weekdays in late August and September. Oscar's Wacky Taxi's trains only seat up to 12 riders. The ride often runs 2 trains in summer, but has only run 1 for me in the other months. Because the ride often opens late, you cannot beat the crowds here, and once the ride starts testing, a line will start to form because you can hear this ride's roar from anywhere inside the park. While this coaster is a hassle to ride, it is easily the park's best ride. Oscar's Wacky Taxi may be short in size, but it packs a formidable punch. The ride is a sea of small bunny hills. Most give weak pops of floater airtime, but a few deliver surprising bursts of ejector airtime. I find the airtime as a whole to be weaker than some of the other small gravity groups, but it's still one of the best paced ones. Oscar's Wacky Taxi has no dead spots, and it charges through the layout. I still cannot believe how fast this ride feels, and I talk about it more in a separate review. The other coaster here is a Vekoma family coaster named Vapor Trail. This one features a custom layout, and it's built on a hillside. However, the coaster oddly doesn't use that location to its advantage. The layout looks like it was meant for flat ground, and it's just propped up on stilts. That being said, it is a glass smooth family coaster, and that initial helix has some underrated force to it. I talk about this ride in its own review as well. The 2 coasters are located adjacent to the main entrance, which is convenient for coaster enthusiasts. Most of the flat rides are located towards the back of the park in 3 different areas: Cookie's Monsterland, Elmo's World, and Countland. They are understandably geared more towards kids, but most of them can comfortably fit adults as well. And there are a trio of spinning rides in Cookie's Monsterland that can leave you dizzy. Monster Mix-Up and the Flying Cookie Jars can be spun super quickly by guests. And then Honker Dinger Derby is a disorienting orbiter that's a relatively rare flat ride for this area. If you're visiting in summer, the water park attractions will be a big part of your visit. The best water slide here is easily Sky Splash. This is a family raft slide with some aerial splashdown pools and supersized thematic sprayers. And then the ride ends in a double down that gives some surprising weightlessness. The other water slides are a mix of body and tube slides, with the larger ones being placed on the hill on the back edge of the property. These are average for the genre, and then you also have water play areas for kids, plus a lazy river to relax in. Beyond the rides, one of the biggest aspects about Sesame Place are the character meet and greets. This part of the park reminds me a lot of Disney. The most popular attraction in the entire park by far is the parade. If rides are your focus, that is the time to ride because most guests will be lined down the midway watching the floats come by. The parade may be short, but it's energetic between the characters, actors, and music. You also have the option to dine in with the characters or meet them at designated locations throughout the park. Now that Sesame Place operates year-round, the park has a bevy of seasonal events. I like how the park changes the centerpiece in the entry plaza and the decorations around the park are cute. So do I recommend Sesame Place? It depends. If you're a coaster enthusiast with a Platinum Pass, Sesame Place is worth a pit stop if you know Oscar's Wacky Taxi is open. There's no worse feeling than getting to this park as a coaster enthusiast and seeing that ride closed. This park is just a half hour from Six Flags Great Adventure, and Oscar's Wacky Taxi is better than 3/4 of the coasters there. If the coasters are your only priority, you probably only need an hour at Sesame Place at most, assuming they're open when you get there. The park is clearly geared towards kids though, and they can spend an entire day there. I just wish the employees were friendlier, but the attractions were smartly chosen to be accessible to kids and comfortable enough for adults to ride with them. Plus you have all the non-ride attractions too. However, I cannot ignore this park's cost. $90 is really steep for any theme park, let alone a park as small as Sesame Place. Thankfully, you can often find discounts to make the admission price more palatable. But when you take price into consideration, I think the Northeast has a few better children's parks, such as Dutch Wonderland, Legoland New York, and Storyland up in New Hampshire. But if your kids are a fan of Sesame Street, I think this place becomes a must. They are sure to have a blast, even if you've burned a hole in your wallet. So those are my thoughts on Sesame Place, the children's park in Langhorne, Pennsylvania. What are your thoughts on this park? Do you agree it's wise for SeaWorld to expand use of the Sesame Street IP? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. If you enjoyed this review, I'd appreciate it if you gave this video a like, and you considered subscribing, because there'll be a lot more roller coaster and amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.